everyone, welcome back to the channel for another video on GT Sport. We're back with the FIA Pre-Season Manufacturers Championship. This is the GT3 race at Brands Hatch, round 4. Starting from P1 there, TRL Lightning with a very fast lap, probably the fastest driver on the game at the moment. P3 there, RC Zocchi, Razor starting in P4, and then going all the way back there you can see the Ferrari in the distance. That'll be myself there. P5 RC Racer, and a reasonable lap. You can see the times are fairly similar to when I was in the Renault. I managed, I think it was a 23.3 or a 23.2, but we didn't hook this lap up in the Ferrari, but we'll talk about that now. You can see there, starting from P8, we did a 23.5. I was a little bit disappointed with that purely because that was my first lap out from the pits. We went in the pits, put the fresh tyres on, we had less fuel, and we didn't hook the lap up at all. We lost traction on one of the corners, which is very easy to do with the Ferrari, and was really frustrated because I felt like I could get a late 22, early 23 with the Ferrari. As over one lap when it's got fresh tyres, the Ferrari was really good at this track. It felt really fast, but the tyre wear was going to be an issue with this car at this track. It's probably one of the worst tracks for tyre wear with the settings they had. The Ferrari really does chew its tyres up, and obviously we're not using any counter steer assist, so we're going to do a tactic to try and save the tyres. This race was, I wanted to really try and see if, you know, if you drive to save the tyres, does it have the effect that it should have? You know, on iRacing you can do it by short shifting and stuff, you know, not putting too much power through them rear wheel tyres, and it definitely saves the tyres on iRacing. So this race was about, let's test that out and see how it works out on GT Sport, and see if we can get a good result in this race, as this is a very competitive lobby. We want some good points, and it'll be really nice to get some solid points. So we're jumping on board here now. Once the race starts, we're going to go through to the TV replay cameras for this first lap. We want to watch the action and watch everyone fighting for the position. As you can see, we're away now, and we're going to move that camera, and let's have a little look as the lights go out and we get this race underway. You know, a lot of very strong drivers in this race. You know, some of the best on the game. Obviously there's still a lot of them away, but you know, this race was full of very, very competitive drivers. As you can see, they're away now. First aim just to get through turn 1 nice and cleanly. We're right behind Oscaro there, and we're just trying to stay close. As Matt, it looks like Matty had a massive issue in the Evolution. We just about got through him before his car turned back to a solid car rather than being ghosted, but he's lost a lot of positions there from P2, I think he was on starting on the grid, and he's all the way down in P9 by the looks of it. We got GTB Twizzy right behind us, another very strong driver on GT Sport, probably one of the best on the game also, and he's looking to get past us. As this Ferrari, we have a massive moment going onto the straight there. You saw the rear step out, we managed to save it, and we just got on the power and just about saved that and kept enough speed to stop GTB Twizzy getting not close enough to make a move into this corner now. Going through this first lap, this is the aim now. We were trying to do a lot of short shifting, so going through the corners I was short shifting, coming out of the corners I was short shifting, and not only is that going to save the tyres, it's going to save us fuel. So that was the plan for this race. It was the only way I could really go about it. I'd done a couple of pre-race practices with TRL Lightning in the practice lobby, and you know, he'll say as well, when I was going lap 5 or 6, if I was pushing really hard, my car would just spin and it would just lose complete traction out of the tyres, because the tyres just couldn't cope with that speed. So I had to go with a different type of strategy for this race, and I was really happy with the choice. You know, in the practice, I managed to get practice in where I did the solid laps before we went into this lobby, which gave me a bit of confidence that I could get this car through to the end of the, to the pit stop face without obviously using any counter steer assist and stuff. As you can see there, we got penalties already up ahead. RC Racer's got a penalty there. He's on the outside of the Oscaro there. Now I was getting a little bit panicky here, so I just give it a little lift off the throttle because I didn't want to get too close to that, and I think there DTP Twizzy just tapped us slightly, and I mean, this game really needs to, you know, again, you need to look at the penalty. He just vaguely tapped my rear of my car. I get a 1 second penalty, and he got a 10-second penalty for that. Apologies to him. Obviously I was just trying to avoid this action that's going up ahead now, and we go to the right to have a look, and then we go to the left and he squeezes on the left. I have to say I was a little bit frustrated at that, and you're going to see why when we watch the replay back of that. I felt like he made his defensive move to the inside and then went back again and cut me off. I was a little bit disappointed with his driving through that corner. However, I'm not going to hold it against him. You can have a little look now. As you can see, I go that way to make a move, then he cuts back and goes back to the other side of the road. He I don't know if he realised I was there, but it was a little bit frustrating, as it could have been very dangerous and it could have wiped us both out the race. But luckily both of us still in the race without any penalties, so it's not a massive issue. It's just a little bit, you know, at the time it happened I was a bit annoyed, but not much you can do there. As you can see there, Matty coming back through the field there, as you can see, making a massive move into that corner past GTB Twizy, which was really important for him. He had an amazing pace at this track. You know, the Evolution is very, very fast around this track, so he wants to get himself back to where he belongs in this race. You know, we started P2 just behind Lightning in this race, and he obviously wants to get back on with this and try and get past us. But you know, I'm not going to make it as easy as I can for him, but I don't want to be getting penalties in this race. You know, I'm kind of on a different strategy to a lot of other drivers. I'm not going flat out. I'm doing a lot of short shifting, and you'll see that when we go on board in a minute, and then I'm going to show you about the short shift. As you can see there, really close action as we're going on to lap 2, and I love this camera angle on this game. Just look how amazing it looks as all the cars go through that corner, and now we're riding on board with Matty there. I think it's Matt, I think it is, trying to make a move on ourselves. We get out of the corner reasonably well. We were doing short shifting here, but our car was actually reasonably competitive in straight line speed while short shifting, and it's why I decided to start doing it in this Ferrari, because it didn't lose too much speed on the straights, and it was saving a lot of fuel when I was doing the short shifting. So now I know this about this car. It's really good knowledge for future races. As you can see there, we're a little bit scary on the curbs, but we've managed to control it. You know, we're not using counter steer assist. We're doing this all by ourselves, no traction control. We're just trying to, you know, control this car with the steering wheel, and that's all we've got to help us. So it was a really enjoyable situation. As you can see there, look at the difference in traction that the Evolution gets out of that corner. We cannot put that type of power down. I try and give him space. He tries to go around the outside. I'm giving him space there because I kind of know that's not going to be possible. He goes for the undercut. We managed to get a reasonably good exit. I'm just putting a bit more power into the car now. You can see I'm accelerating hard, but look at the braking ability of this Evo. As he goes down the inside, we're going to go back to GTB Twizy behind us, and you can watch. I go wide. I get a little bit on the sand. I nearly lose it. I just fractionally, I don't know how we didn't hit him there. We saved it and managed to keep the car in a straight line. I'm not sure if he might have got a little bit of contact with him, but that was a really close call, and I tried my best to make sure I didn't hit him. We may have had a little brush against him, but luckily we didn't wipe anyone out, and I did quite a big and important save there. We're still in the race ahead there. You can see. Let's go back and have a little look at that from behind our car as we clipped the sand on our left tyre. Look at that, and got loose, and we just fractionally saved it. That was very close, but we didn't really come into any solid contact. Just a little bit of rubbing with the driver in front of us in the Evolution, and we're now a place down, but not too worried because he was actually ahead of us anyway in the race. Yeah, it's Matty 278, I think it is. He was already ahead of us on the grid. He was starting P2, so let him get on with his race. I didn't want to hold him up too long anyway. That's why I gave him the space on the inside, as it wasn't really worth me fighting him and losing time myself. As you can see, the tyre weight is starting to kick in a little bit now. We're on lap 4. You could see me, you know, fighting the rear a bit, but you're going to see the short shifting I'm doing in this race. You're going to see I'm short shifting in pretty much every year. Sometimes I'm using a bit more revs if I feel like I need to, but the majority of shifts I'm doing very short and trying to save that fuel. Obviously save the tyre life as well. So far it's going okay. We're still in P8. We're where we started in this race, but you know, I was fairly confident the fuel saving was going to come in benefit, you know, that I'm doing, because it's keeping reasonable pace. We're not doing really slow lap times. We were able to get 23s if I was to push this car, but like I say, if I did that, then by lap 5 and 6 this car became undrivable. I tested it out twice doing it, and it was undrivable. This way I was doing it, I did 2 solid 9-lap stints without any real errors. So this is the way I chose to do it. I went for the safer approach, and you can see a lot of cars have got penalties. So far this could end up like an okay strategy, because cars around me have got penalties. We've got under a 1 second penalty, but that should go in the pit stop. I knew that at the time. That's why I didn't take it, because come the pit stop that'll probably go anyway. So you know, if you ever got that before the pit stop, just make sure you go in the pits first, because what you'll find is when you go in the pits time, sometimes you'll lose at least a second penalty. So you can see we managed to hold GTB Twizy off again down this straight. You know, Dodge Viper very fast, but he's just not able to get close enough. The Ferrari is actually a fast car down the straight. I have noticed it has reasonably good acceleration and top speed, so you're able to defend reasonably well because it's got reasonably good handling as well when the tyres are fresh. You can see how cautious I'm being though through the corners, you know, and the short shifting still in the gears. This is all helping the tyre life and the fuel consumption, and it's something that I'm learning with this car, and I'm glad I've figured that out for this car, because you know, it's going to become important in the last 4 races. We've still got 2 more races, I think it is, in the GR3 cars, and obviously 2 more more in the GR4, but GR4 car is not really an issue with the tyre wear. The GR4 car is brilliant with the tyres. And you can see there in the distance in the top right hand corner, you might have spotted it, Twizzy has had a massive moment getting his car on the grass. Let's have a little look at that now on the replay camera. As he went through the final corner, he got his rear left tyre just on the grass. He lost control, saved it, but then lost and took someone out. That was really unfortunate. Nothing Twizzy could do about that, and nothing the car that could do that hit him. If we have a little look now, riding on board with the car that came into contact, you could see Twizzy saved it, but then the car just snapped on him and nothing he can do, and a big contact scraping along the wall, and Twizzy's into the wall, and that's a lot of time lost for Twizzy. So unfortunate for him, but he was pushing a little bit too hard on that final corner and the car just snapped on him once that rear tyre was on the grass. So luckily for us, we've got a bit of comfort now behind us, because the guy that's behind us now wasn't really putting much pressure on us, and I felt like I could hold this guy off, especially with him being in the Porsche. Although the Porsche is extremely fast around this track, in terms of its straight line speed, I felt like the Ferrari could hold that car off. So now I've just got to concentrate on just looking after these tyres. We're in P8 still, we've got a lot of cars ahead of us that aren't too far ahead. You can see that I expected them to start pulling away a little bit at this stage of the race when my tyres were going to start suffering badly. You know, the Ferrari is probably the weakest car with its tyres and the way it drives with the tyres when they're worn. So I was expecting them to maybe pull away a bit at this stage. So I'm just trying to keep it smooth, save that fuel, and then we can close a bit more in the fuels in the pit stop phase maybe. As you can see there, we're around 2 seconds behind the P7 driver, Oscaro. And we're just over a second ahead of the driver behind us now, so he's not really making an impression on us, but I expected, obviously, I'm actually doing reasonably okay sectors at this point. You can see we're up on our best lap, even though it's lap 6, and this is why I've done the short shifting, because if I went all out on like lap 2, 3, 4, etc., and there wasn't much point of doing it then anyway, because everyone was battling. We could have been doing 1 minute 23s and like 23.3s to 8s. I'd done that like reasonably okay in the practice lobby. I'd done with TRL Lightning for 3 or 4 laps, but then the tyres would just go, and I couldn't keep the times under 25.5. But now, because we're doing it the way we're doing now, we're maintaining lap 5 and 6. You can see there 25.4, 25.6 and 25.5s, and that we've obviously got that 25.4, which was I think when we may have been battling away. But you're going to be battling in these races with a lot of fast drivers, so you're going to get the odd bad lap. But you can see in general our lap times have been reasonably okay when the tyres are starting to wear now, and that was why I was doing the short shifting. It really did make a difference with the tyre wear. I was actually really surprised how much of a difference it made. It visually didn't make much of a difference in terms of looking at the wear on your tyre monitor, but I could feel a lot more grip at this stage of the race by doing that short shifting. So if you ever struggle with that tyre wear, just do a bit of short shifting earlier on in the stint. You will sacrifice some time, but I think in general it's a good idea. As you can see again, Matty again has had some sort of an error, or something's happened, contact with another driver, and we've got back past him. He was having a bit of a nightmare at this track. I feel a bit sorry for him, because every time I came across him, he was either off the track or he'd been punted or stuff like that. So unfortunate for him, and he really did have the speed. Look how far ahead he had got. He was really flying in this race, and unfortunately for him, he's back down the grid now in P9 again. So it's good for myself. Obviously, I'm up into P7, so just trying to concentrate on keeping that gap reasonably close to Oscaro there. It's just under 3 seconds, 2.6 seconds behind. They're not pulling away as much as I expected them to at this stage of the race. Obviously, when they've got the better tyres, their cars were generally better on the tyres. I've driven them cars, they are better on the tyres. This car is not the nicest car. Even the Renault, I think the RS01 that I used in the previous FIA race at this track was probably better on the tyre, well, a lot better on the tyres than this car. I was able to push that car and maintain reasonably good lap times with it. This car is just a lot harder. So I'm just trying to do that short shift, and you can see getting into 6th gear on that straight when we were halfway on the revs in 5th, just saving as much fuel as I can. I don't want to be using anything more than I need to. Going through these corners again, being very cautious. I don't want to lose control over these curves. This car will bite if you give it any sort of disrespect and try and be aggressive with it. As you can see there, the tyre wear, you could see how that nearly went then. It's starting to kick in, but I'm just trying to be really smooth with everything I'm doing. I'm not pushing this car too hard at this phase. I'm just trying to be rather gentle on the throttle, not being aggressive on the acceleration anywhere, being smooth with my steering inputs, and especially in the braking zones, not just braking really hard, because I found if you braked really hard, you would kick the rear out. And one thing you could do to counter that would be to use more front bias on the brake balance, it did help it out. However, I was that okay with how it was driving at the moment. I felt I could stay on the -2 and just keep with the smooth drive, and I didn't want to change anything. It felt okay, the car. So while it's feeling okay, I wanted to stick with this. You can see we're doing okay sector still. We're putting in personal best in the first sector, but by to show you how far off that is, we could have done a 17.1 or 2 if we were pushing really hard. This short shifting is losing me a bit of time, but I don't think it was losing me enough to would make it worth, because if I was to push, I'd be really struggling when it came to the pit stop phase. So this is why I went for this tactic, and it's all about the long run and trying to get a good result. So you can see there, normally I do like driving aggressive. You've seen the other races I do when I do like driving aggressive, but this car does not suit that. So you have to drive to the car's strengths, and the fuel consumption on this car when short shifting is very good, and its speed is okay. It doesn't lose too much speed. You can see it looks like they're battling up ahead, and this is helping me. We're coming up to the pit stop phase now, and we're under 2 seconds behind them. We are not losing time. This is great news for me. Lap 9 is the lap I expected to be losing some serious time because of the way the car was handling towards the later phases. So we're now pitting a really aggressive pit entry. I really did nail that entry. As you can see there, also pitting right behind us is Matty there. Both in the pits at the same time. Our tyres are being changed. Our tyres are on. His tyres are on. And look at the difference in the fuel in now. This is because of the short shifting, and also that Evolution is not the best on its fuel. So he would have been struggling with the fuel a lot more. He was going obviously a lot more aggressive. He was having to drive aggressive, and that makes a big difference when it comes to the the pit stop. He was in the pits for a few seconds longer, which can put you back quite a long time in this game. If someone's done the undercut on you, it can really make a difference. So luckily for us, we don't lose any places, and we've come out pretty much identical to the drivers ahead. And I had a feeling that we'd actually be in a bit better fuel situation than them drivers ahead of me, because they were all close together. What you'll find is they'll all try and outdo each other in terms of the fuel pit stop. So they'll all put a little bit less than each other in, and try and get out ahead. So at this stage, I was thinking I'm probably in the best situation for fuel, and the way the car is going to be, they're probably going to be able to pull away a bit at this stage, because I'm going to be nursing them tyres for the later stages of the race. I don't want to use all the wear up again. This is exactly the same now as the first stint. I don't want to just take all the tyre life out of these tyres. What I want to do is preserve them and make them last for them last few laps. It's going to be really important. You don't know who you could be battling. It could be anyone you could be battling. At the moment we're okay. We've got a couple of cars behind us and we've got a couple of cars in front of us. There's not much action around me, but I was okay with that at this stage, because it suits the strategy I was running on, just nursing the tyres, looking after the car, trying to keep the fuel in check, and everything is going okay at this stage of the race. We're in P7, we're doing a good job. This is a very tough lobby, obviously a lot of fast drivers in here, and the Ferrari on this track without using any assist apart from obviously ABS is a tough car, and it takes a lot of patience with this car. So you can see up ahead there, you can see I think that's Razor in P6. He looks like he's had some sort of an issue. He's dropped down a bit. Maybe there's been some sort of contact with the cars up ahead, as he had very good pace in this race, obviously in that Toyota, which is a very nice GR3 car, one of the fastest at the moment on the current BOP. Obviously you have to short shift that car to get the speed out of it, so that car also I'm guessing would have reasonably good fuel consumption, because it's got most of its power midway on the RPM. When you're short shifting it, you're probably going to be saving a lot of fuel as well. So he was doing a good job up until obviously some contact there, and unlucky for him. And you can see the cars up ahead have got penalties, and there's another issue. It looks like there's contact somewhere, and another driver has actually had an issue. When I watched that back, I did actually watch that. We're not going to show it now, but it looked like an overtake attempt, and then the car just knocked him into him, and it just basically caused an issue. As I think then, as he came back on track, I think Razor had nowhere to go and actually bumped him again, or it might have been the car in front of him that actually bumped him. But it was another issue in that race there, and more contact with the drivers. But again, we've gone up a place, but unfortunately for RC Racer, a bit unfortunate for him. He didn't do anything wrong in that when I watched it back, but we're up to P6, so I'm not going to complain really. You can see we're quite a long way behind, obviously, Lightning at this stage. You can see there 11 seconds. We was 10 seconds behind him on lap, I think it was like lap 5 or 6. So you can see we've not done that bad in terms of how close we are to him now. In the space of like 5 or 6 laps, we've kept the gap reasonable, but I think he had an issue on one lap where he got a penalty bumping into another car. So unfortunate for him, he would have probably have been a lot further up ahead than what he is now, and he's probably going to start pulling away as he's able to really push that Subaru. And I'm just nursing this car right, every lap. I'm just trying to be so careful with it. I do not want to spin this car. We're at the moment P6 would be some really solid points in this lobby. It would be probably around 2,000 points. So I knew that at this point, and I didn't want to throw them points away because I'm just trying to keep it consistent at the moment. I really do need to try and get one big round, at least 1 or 2 big rounds, but at the moment the solid driving is paying off really well, and we're doing okay in this race, as you can see there. We're not losing too much to the guys ahead. We've managed to pull away from we're not pulling away, but we were pulling away from the Porsche behind us, but now that Porsche has been overtaken by Matty, who is going to be on a charge again. And I did notice his name pop up there, and it does make you look in the mirror a bit, and you can see I looked back, and this is where you start thinking, is he going to be getting closer, he's going to be pushing hard. I do my fastest lap of the race again, only a 24.3, but again, I'm not trying to drive too aggressively. I just want to keep it reasonably smooth and save this car for the last few laps, and obviously doing that as well will give me the fuel to push at the end if I need to. I can see at the moment I'm over the fuel I need. I've got more fuel than I need, so if I do need to drive it a little bit more aggressively on the straights to defend against a position, I've got that fuel there to do. I wasn't going to be as easy. I didn't want to make it as easy for Matty to overtake now at this stage of the race. We've only got a few laps to go, so I wasn't going to make it easy for him. I was going to be very defensive if I had to, but there was no point me fighting too hard. Obviously I didn't want to give any penalties away. As you can see now, we're still staying with P5. They're not pulling away too drastically, which again surprised me because I expected their race pace to be a lot better than mine with how I was able to drive this Ferrari. So at the moment the plan of what I did from the start is really going really nicely, but you can see there, look at the gap to Matty behind us. He's caught nearly a second and a half, well, around about a second on this one lap, and you can see how hard he is pushing on that top right hand corner. Looking in that replay camera, he was half on the grass, half on the track. He is giving it everything. He wants to get back past me, he wants to get back in that top 5, and he wants some solid points. He's probably really frustrated with himself for that mistake that he made. I say one mistake, a couple of mistakes, or it could have been contact. I do not know exactly what happened to him, but I think some of the mistakes were probably himself, but I think some of them were probably contact with other drivers. As now, I think he also had a penalty when I noticed when I look back at this stage, so he's got possibly a penalty as well to take us. We're going to ride on board now as he's closing in on us, and he's starting to put some real pressure on us now, and I was starting to get a little bit you start feeling the pressure a bit, and you're just trying to concentrate on, especially with this Ferrari, you are concentrating on every single squeeze of the accelerator pedal, making sure that them tyres do not lose traction and you do not spin this car. So you'll see me just trying to be as cautious as I can, but he's getting closer and closer, and I was starting to feel the pressure, and I was looking back in the mirror, and I was really, making sure that he wasn't getting too close in the corner. So we go through this right hand, that I clipped that okay, but I went a bit aggressive, and I did nearly went a little bit too aggressive on that corner. But you're going to see now, we go through this corner, and look how far away we miss the apex, and we're on the grass. Luckily, I don't panic. I just lift off the throttle, and you see he goes around the outside. He actually clipped his right hand tyre on the dirt. He nearly lost control, but he got round us. Have a look on the replay camera now as I'm trying to fight back. There's not much I can do. I made that mistake. I was really frustrated at myself for that really stupid error. I just went into the corner too fast, and luckily for us, though, I didn't put the power down once I was on the grass. I just lifted and let everything coast back onto the track, and luckily we didn't come into the way of Matty as well. I tried to give him space, and I let him go around the outside. He nearly lost it on the grass when he got his tyre on the grass, but we're now right behind, as you can see there, getting really close. I love that camera angle, and you can see there he's got a penalty to take, and there's something's happened up ahead. We've got cars littered all over the track, and every one of them has got penalties. At this stage I did not know which way to go. I decided to go down the right. We're past one of them. I go down the left, and Matty there, amazing move. It's like something you see on a getaway movie there, as he goes around the left hand side, goes through past him, but he's going to take his penalty now. Oscaro, I don't know what he was doing there, but he lifted it in the middle of the corner, which probably wasn't the most sensible thing you could do, but luckily we get round all that, and we've actually got ourselves up into P4 now. So we now need to just hold this position. We're just over a second ahead of Oscaro, so hopefully with that fuel saving I've been doing, and with the tyres being in better condition now, we can make something work. So let's have a little look at what happened. This is really strange. This is a server issue. Watch this as something. I have got no idea what happened there. His car just suddenly, Razor's car, just lag spiked and wiped Oscaro out. I mean, I must admit, if I was Oscaro, I'd be a bit annoyed, but nothing Razor could do in that situation. His car just lag spiked and totally wiped him out. And at least that's what's showing on my replay. I'd be interested to see if that's what's happened. You know, if any of you guys who was involved with that could, you know, tell me exactly what happened, I'd be really interested. But from my replay, it just looks like a lag spike, and he's just wiped him out somehow. So maybe a server issue has caused that. But another, you know, situation where I've gained 3 places in there. So I think Matty decided to take his penalty along with them, why obviously they all had penalties. Whether he got that penalty in that situation, I'm not too sure. I did notice he had a penalty already, so I don't really know where he picked that up, but he's obviously decided to take that penalty along with all them other cars, as maybe it went over the 10-second thing and he was losing, even adding more time onto it. As you can see now, Matty is a long way back. He's actually lost quite a few places there by the looks of it. I think RC Racer is now in 8th, so we're actually holding, if you have a little look on the Delta, Oscaro is behind us and we're actually pulling away from him. We're not losing time, and this is what I was saying about saving my tyres for the last few laps. It's actually paying off. This is the point of the race where the Ferrari is at its weakest, but because of my tyre management, I've actually got this car to be reasonably okay. It's not fast by any means, but it's fast enough, especially with the fuel saving we've been doing, which has given me enough fuel to run to the end reasonably aggressive. As you can see there, we're 2 tenths up on our previous best. This lap was heading for a 1:23, but obviously through these corners, this is where I'm going to lose out with the tyre wear kicking in. You know, we're towards the end of this, and you can see that the rear started going loose. I managed to hold it, not panic too much, and this corner this time we don't make the same error. I give a lot of space on that left-hand side. I didn't want to push too hard, but again, we're up on our time, and you can see this lap would have been pushing for a 23 if I was really going for it, but we still got to do that short shifting, and everything is going reasonably well. If I could maintain this P4 position, I would have been really happy. You know, before on that grid when I'm starting P8, if someone said you're going to finish this race in P4, I would have took it then and there, and I would have been really happy with it. As you can see there now, we're starting lap 17, so just 2 more laps to go, and we've got to hold on to this lead, but we're actually pulling away from P5. And RC Zocchi, I don't know what's happened to him. It looks like he's had some sort of issue. He's just up ahead of us, 5 seconds ahead, and I was quite surprised to see him there. I don't know what's happened, whether he's had a penalty he's had to take and he's decided to take it before the end of the race. I'm not too sure, but he was too far away from me to catch anyway. I wouldn't have been able to catch him anyway. He had great pace on this track. And again, we go through that first sector on a blue sector, which is my personal best. It's not going to be a purple sector, obviously, with the Ferrari, the way I'm driving it. You know, a lot of short shifting going on as we're going into 6th gear on this corner, down into 4th. And what you'll see I was trying to do is be really gentle on the throttle before putting the power down on that corner, because that corner, if you try to be really hard with the Ferrari, it would just spin its wheels and you'd lose control. So I learned that in the practice session, so it was a good job I did them practice sessions, because it's really paying off at this stage now as we're into P4. Obviously a really good result for myself in this race considering our qualifying position. I've just tried to keep my nose clean and not get involved with any incidents. You see me giving people space. We made that one little error where Matty got past us, but that actually ended up helping me out a bit, because when we got through to that incident, I somehow managed to get through all that carnage without any contact with any other driver, and we didn't even get a penalty from it. So, and also, if you would have noticed, we lost our penalty that we would have had to take in the pits. Obviously that got rid of it in the pit lane, so that's why I say always leave it to the pits, because it will dissipate in that pits if it's only a short penalty. Obviously track dependent. You can see I've got plenty of fuel left. We've got a full lap of fuel at this stage of the lap, and that's good because we've already pulled away from Oscaro in P5 there. We're pulling away from him at this stage, and, you know, maybe he's been with that spin and stuff, and it's probably took some life out of his tyres, and he's maybe having to do a bit of fuel saving. We're not having to do any fuel saving. We can just drive to the end now with reasonably aggressive changing. You can see I realised I had the fuel, so I was going a little bit further on the revs. Going into these last corners, I just really wanted to concentrate on not making an error. You know, one thing I didn't want to do was throw away a good solid result at the last, you know, in the last few corners of the lap. Going through this corner again, giving a lot of respect on the curb. You could see I wasn't attacking it anywhere near as much as before. You know, one thing that really does, it makes me a little bit thingy on these tracks is when the brake markers disappear. I have to really take a double look every time. You can see a lot of the brake markers have been wiped out on this track by a lot of incidents through the race, but we've got through that okay. We're still in P4. You know, Oscar is starting to catch up a bit where I've took this really easy on this lap, but he's not catching up anywhere near enough. We're going to go down the straight, and we've managed to get ourselves a really good result there. P4 in this race is a great result, and I'm thoroughly happy with that, and I hope you guys enjoyed that. I know I definitely did. So we have a little look there. TRL Lightning takes P1. I expected that. RC Zoki takes P2. Roth Waffle takes P3. We're in P4 and Razor in P5. So you see GTP Twizy managed to get himself back into P7 as well. Good job on that after that massive crash he had. We managed to take 2,274 points from that race. It was a high scoring round. I was pretty aware of that. You know, Lightning I think got 2,700 points. It shows you the competition in that race. So really strong competition and some very good points. And that puts us into P5 in the world rankings now for Europe. So some more solid results that we're getting in, and we're still #1 in the world for the Ferrari, which is really nice. And I'm sure it'll be a struggle to keep that top 10 position when, you know, obviously TRL Lightning's going to have it. He's only done 2 races. A lot of drivers haven't done their 4 races yet. Once it all works itself out, my main aim is just to keep myself in that top 24. If we can finish in the top 24 of how many good drivers are driving this season and how competitive it is, I would be extremely happy. And I'm hoping I can do that. You know, we've got some good rounds coming up in terms of tracks for myself. I'm not too sure what they'll handle like in the cars I'm driving. We'll find that out when we get to race them. So anyway guys, hope you enjoyed that race. Make sure you give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. Make sure you subscribe to the channel also if you haven't already subscribed. We're uploading daily videos on GT Sport, sometimes more than once a day, and you know, we're going to keep this going for as long as possible. We're also doing the odd video on a set of course and project cars, so do make sure you sub the channel if you enjoyed that video. Thanks again for watching everyone.